I'm going to tell y'all a secret, but if you use it, them's fighting words. Just to let you know, them's fighting words. So, if you call a rose stinkweed, does that change the smell of a rose? Does it change the beauty of a rose? I know everybody's answer is absolutely not. It changes absolutely nothing about what a rose is and how a rose smells and what a rose does. The secret is this. If any of you were to go to Marietta, Georgia, and find people who had been there who are my age and a little bit older, or even go to my family and say Lorenzo, they're going to say, who is that? You say Renz. Who is Renz? You see, I grew up being called Wayne. My middle name is Dwayne. And I grew up with everybody in my family and everybody that I went to school with, all my teachers, calling me Wayne. It was quite funny because when I was getting my security clearance, and they would call my teachers and my family and say, we're doing an investigation for security clearance for Lorenzo Reed. My family, my cousin who grew up like my little sister, when she answered the phone, she was like, there's no Lorenzo. I don't know any Lorenzo. And thankfully, my aunt said, girl, they talking about Wayne. Did that in any way change who I am? Does it in any way change who I am? If you called me Wayne, don't you do it. Would that change who I am? Would that change my thought process? Would that change my critical thinking? Would that change my personality? Does that change any aspect of who I am at this very moment? No, it does not. Why is this important? Because on many of my comments, well, many of my videos, I get the comments of, oh, you don't even know what you're talking about. You're using names that don't even reflect the actual names of the people to which you're speaking of. You use the name Jesus. I use the name Jesus. Does it matter that the name Jesus, which is an English name, which is English, is a very young language? That matters not. If I use Ius or Isus, would that matter? It does not. Many people try to say that Isus means saving Zeus. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that at all. It's just the way the names have been translated from one language to another. For instance, if my daughter who speaks Japanese, there is not a W or a V. It's one of those two letters or both of those letters in their language. So this is why people from Japan struggle to make that sound when they use an English word that has a W or a V sound in it. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but they struggle with it because it's not part of their language. So the wa and the sh sound was not a part of the Greek. So when the Greeks were translating the name Yeshua into Greek, they didn't have those sounds in their vocabulary, so they translated into Isus, and then later into Ius in the Latin. And then you look at an authorized King James Bible from 1611, it still says Ius. But then later on, when the J was invented around, I think, 15 or 1600 CE, then the Jesus name it was translated into Jesus. But it's still referring to the same character. It's still referring to the same biblical mythological character. So it has no bearing on the actual telling of the story or talking about it. It's this, and when people try to stake their claim on that, what you're really telling me is that you cannot combat the information to which I'm speaking of, and therefore you have to find the most simple thing you possibly can to try to uh, change the argument and deflect into something else because you can't deal with what I'm actually talking about. The fact that your character is not a historical character, the fact that your character never existed as the biblical version espouses. You're really just showing that you don't. Now, some will say, well, God changed Abram's name from Abram to Abraham. He changed Jacob's name to Israel, to which, in a lot of the stories, he switches back and forth from calling him Israel and calling him Jacob, as if he can't make up his mind what he gonna call this dude. Make up your mind, Bible. Is he Jacob or is he Israel? Go and read those stories in Genesis, and you'll see they keep flip flopping the names. Like one paragraph later, he was Jacob. Next paragraph, he's Israel. So Just simply because a name was changed does not change the individual, does not change who we're talking about, and has no indication of the relevance to the information to which we're talking about. So I hope that finally clears this up. And don't y'all ever in your life call me Wayne. I hate that name. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.